Hey everybody, this is John LeMasney. I'm sitting here with Sean Piotrowski. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been a little while,
About a month.
about a month. So we're here on the customer and the service, in which case we talk about customer service in lots of different forms. Always an exciting conversation, and we have some fun things we're going to talk about, right, tonight, Sean?
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. So what do you want to talk about tonight?
So I have been doing genealogical research on my family since roughly 2008.
Okay.
And I'll do it in spurts, like, probably like 3 months at a time, 4 months at a time. And then I'll like take a really long break from it, because I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but it kind of rots your brain after a while, trying to like keep everything straight in your head and like getting the idea of first cousin twice removed or great 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 grandfather. Um, it gets to you, especially if you like try to talk to other people about it. When I find something out about something in my family, like my mom's family, I'll like call her and tell her, and she'll be like, "Wait a second, who are we talking about?" And it like we'll both get lost in the conversation. So that's why I like do it in like very intense bursts, and then I take a break. So I've primarily used Ancestry.com as my like research vehicle, using the records that are available there, and so on and so forth. And so, like I said, I started in 2008. Here we are, it's 2014, so it's about 6 years I've been doing this. And I've kind of hit the point where all the records that I could probably find about my family in Ancestry.com, I already have found and discovered. So unless I find out like I have new family members, which has happened recently, there's really not much that Ancestry.com can offer me more. I'm a very happy customer of Ancestry.com. I think it's a great service. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about tonight. What I wanted to talk about is I've now gone into the world of government archives. So there's very limited information about families in general. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the federal census records are only available up to 1940. So we're still waiting. 1950 will be available in 2020. And, there's other pieces of information that are public record, but most of the information that we really would want, sadly, in the state of New Jersey, is under lock and key in the state archives.
What is their explanation for why it's not available right now?
Well, I'll explain that. And also, you're not coming in very clearly when you spoke there. You were very quiet.
Oh.
I think your microphone's not. So, through my research on Ancestry, I actually found out that there are many states that have digitized and made their records available through Ancestry.com. One of those states, for example, is the state of Texas. I found out that my grandfather had a first cousin who was born in Newark, New Jersey, where my grandfather was born, who served in the Navy like my grandfather, and then moved to Texas, where he started a family and lived for the remainder of his life. Through Ancestry.com, I was actually able to get a digitized copy of his death certificate, which contained tons of valuable information, right through Ancestry. No additional cost. It was part of the service. It was digitized. It was scanned. It was OCR'd. So, any searches I did for that family member, it came up very easily, and I could see the record wonderfully. So there are other states that have digitized birth certificates, death records, the records that are typically what they consider to be publicly available through their archives. They've actually gone and digitized and made available either through state website services like Ancestry.com or even through state libraries in some cases. So the state of New Jersey, sadly, is a state that does not or has not digitized their records. They have a state archive that anyone with a New Jersey state driver's license can visit in Trenton. Also, if you're a registered genealogical researcher, I believe you can access the records. So I've taken about 4 trips so far in the past, I'd say 2 months, maybe 3 months, to the state archives in Trenton. And what it is basically is a room with a lot of drawers of microfilm, along with microfilm readers that have, luckily, printers attached to them. So if you find a record in the microfilm and you want a copy, you literally hit a giant green button and you have a wonderful printout of it. But the sad thing is like you have none of the records are indexed. There's no OCRing. So when you want to find a record, you need to know the year, pretty much the precise year of the record you're looking for. So if you're looking for a birth certificate, a death certificate, a marriage certificate, a will, an immigration record, you better know what year that record was in. Otherwise, you're going to be hunting for quite a while. For example, my grandfather's mother died, or my great-grandmother, died very young. She died at 37 years old, and no one in my grandfather's family is alive anymore, so we weren't really sure what year she died, you know? I only know now that she died at 37, but before, nobody was really sure. And in fact, my grandmother said that my grandfather was 6 years old when she died, which would mean that that she died in 1928. So trying to find her death record to find out what happened was actually pretty difficult. So I remember the first time that I tried to do it, I literally had to take a stack of microfilm like this, and I had to go through all the records for each year. You know, luckily it's alphabetized and broken down by letter, but you have to literally load them up in the microfilm reader and like sort through them all. It was really a crazy experience. I felt like in the year 2014 we should not have to do this anymore. And luckily, I mean, I will say this: the archivists that work in the archive, they are incredible resources. They understand the records that they have there. You can ask them for assistance. They're very helpful. They're incredible resources, and they've helped me a lot in my research. But sadly, there's no digitization. They are slowly but surely indexing certain records. They started with the oldest records that they have. And from what I know, they've only made it up to like the 1850s. So there is some cases, there's some death certificates, military records, and such that you can go to the state archives website and search for a family member, and if they have it in their collection, it'll show you on the website that we have this record and this is where it is. You can order it directly from the website and we'll mail it to you, or you can just copy this particular call number, if you will, bring it to the archive and find the record yourself. But sadly, there's no online purchasing of the document. There's no way to view the document online. It's really, really sad. And what's also interesting is that there, in addition to Ancestry.com, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, one of the big tenets of the Mormon religion is genealogical research. And so they have these things called family centers set up around the country where you can go, whether you're a Mormon or not a Mormon, and they'll help you with research because they actually have their own set of records that they themselves are the stewards of. So what I found out is actually, like, one example of records that they have that no one else does is that they've actually gone to the different Catholic dioceses in New Jersey and gotten christening records as far back as like the early 1700s, late 1600s, and they've digitized them. So there's no other resource available that has these records except for them. So unless an organization like that takes it upon themselves to contact a state or a steward of records and say, listen, we'll digitize the records and we'll pay for it, but you have to give us exclusive rights to the records, it's not getting done.
No.
And Ancestry.com has, from what I'm seeing, they also themselves are taking it upon themselves to digitize groups of records to make it available to their members. But as far as states, like I said, Texas is a state that has taken it very seriously. New Jersey is falling far behind, and so as a customer in the service topic here, the state of New Jersey is not providing good customer in the service to its citizens who are in need of these records.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about is yet another example of something that is so far down the list on the list of priorities for what New Jersey residents. I mean, libraries are incredibly threatened, and you know how important I feel that libraries are in New Jersey, and I have a lot of friends in that, but that's not a coincidence. I have friends in libraries in New Jersey because they do great work. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a project offline that we'll talk more about in another episode. But I feel like New Jersey's priorities are way out of whack in terms of supporting residents in many ways.
Well, I think
Can you not hear me?
I do hear you now, yeah. Everything that you just said came in clearly. It's funny. It's not like New Jersey treats the state archives like as a redheaded stepchild. I mean, I think that the archives is a very nice facility. It's a very spacious facility. There are obviously resources there because the amount of archivists that are employed by the state of New Jersey, there's a ton of them. I mean, from every time that I go in there, it looks like there's 15 to 20 people there at a time that are actual employees of the archive. So as the state of New Jersey, it seems, does take its archives very seriously, and I would probably say that that's because of our revolutionary or colonial history, that they have to take this stuff seriously because we were, a cornerstone to the United States. So there's a definite need for historical documentation and cataloging. But, it just seems like it's not enough. And, I know we're facing budgetary issues, but, I mean, all these records are already microfilmed. So, I mean, what does it cost to get a machine that scans microfilm? I mean, it can't be more than a few $1,000s. And you have one of these librarians handle the scanning, and then you slowly but surely index and catalog. I'm sure there's software that assists with that stuff. And it can't be more than, you have somebody on staff already that's capable of doing this, and you have them, or a team of archivists, working on this project. And it doesn't appear that that's happening at all.
A lot of the
I can't hear you. Project. You're not. There's no sound. Okay.
You can't hear me?
Very similar. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I can hear you now.
Okay. I think we have a delay. I'm sorry about that.
Can't hear you. Okay.
It's weird. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There's a delay, a long delay.
I do see that, yes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk now. So
okay.
This reminds me a little bit of the Google Book Project, which finally made it through the courts, and they were allowed to essentially have libraries, a limited set of libraries, be able to, in some cases, destroy, but in every case, scan these books. And it sounds like that kind of processing could be applied to a lot of different kinds of records, and should. And so Princeton, for example, is involved in that book scanning project, and I don't know why that same exact setup couldn't be used in order to solve this problem as well.
Let's take it a step further. I mean, obviously, Google feels that books are important records to be preserved and available as freely as possible, when copyright permits. Why aren't archived records also included in that philosophy?
They should be.
I fully agree with that. I mean, I'm surprised. I don't know if anyone's brought that up or mentioned that, but I would like to see that become part of the the umbrella, the Google Book umbrella, call it Google Records or something, They obviously have the machinery, the software, the know-how to handle this type of work. And if anything, they should open source the software, you know what I mean? Because anybody can get a scanner,
If I'm not mistaken, it is open source software that they use in order to do this work. And the only issue is, imagine the headline, Google Google takes on public records. It makes perfect sense that they would do that because they're about having as much knowledge as possible and making it available to as many people as possible. But that's also the thing that creeps people out, is Google, quote unquote, holding on to information about people. It doesn't freak me out in the least. I find it very useful, and I already feel like our privacy is destroyed anyway, and not because of Google, but because of it just is difficult to keep a private life when we walk around with these devices in our pockets that are constantly revealing everything that we say and do.
Exactly.
So I think it's a given. I think that it's a political problem, probably more so than any kind of a technical problem. And by all means, this might seem to us like a small problem to somebody who's not as interested in genealogy as you or me, and you far more than me. But I definitely think that public records should be revealed and accessible in as easy a way as possible for both the people who scan and the people who read. I should be able to go to a database and look up that data, and it shouldn't stop at the 1940s. It should. I guess it's a workflow issue or something.
No, I think there's a legal precedence for, that records have to be 80 years old before they're eligible to be public record. And listen, I understand that they want to put a time limit on it, especially with identity theft issues and maybe some personal privacy sensitivities. That's fine. I have no issue with the current whatever records are currently available. I just want whatever records that are available to be made easily available.
Yeah, because otherwise it means you going in and looking at microfiche or whatever, and having to possibly print that out, or and I bet you can't get a digital copy of something that you find on microfiche, can you?
No, there's no mechanism to make a JPEG or a GIF file or PNG or nothing. It has to be printed out. And so, what my process has been, they also are very strict about you're not allowed to bring like electronic devices or anything into the archives. I think it's because of there's some original documents that they work with that they're afraid of being exposed or damaged, from outside stuff. So my workflow has been, I literally will walk in with a folder, I'll print my records out, and when I get home, I lay them out in a well-lit, flat surface, and I'm literally using like my camera phone, because my camera takes such high-resolution photos now, and I'm able to just take a photo of the document, and then I'm able to even crop them right on my phone, and I have an OCR ready-to-go JPEG that I can run into Acrobat Pro if I want to, and OCR it, and then I keep that record for my collection, and I have paper copies and I have digital copies, but if I could cut out all the paper and go straight digital, I would.
Well, you know how I feel about paper, of course.
Oh, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
One other thing I'd like to add, actually, and I think this would be a very poignant note to add to end on, actually. So, we just talked about New Jersey, and it's great that the records that they do have are even microfilmed. I'm sure there are states where you literally are going through drawers of original records, which is another problem in itself. But through my research, I learned that my great-great-grandfather, who was a German immigrant, actually received a passport after becoming a citizen in 1930. And he used it to take a round trip back to Germany in 1931. So he went over and came back in 1931. I've actually obtained his passport number, the number that is associated with his passport. Now, he's been dead for, since I think 1942 or something. So I actually found out through the State Department you can actually request through the Freedom of Information Act people's passport documents, like all the documents related to the application of a passport from a particular, like from like 1945 and earlier, you know. So the reason I'm kind of interested in this is because, you know, there's a lot of information that's contained in a passport application that might be useful to me, but also more importantly is that after 1927, I think, passport applications required a photo. So this is actually an opportunity for me to see what my great-great-grandfather looked like, because there is no known photos of him. So are you familiar with the Freedom of Information Act process at all, John?
I'm not really with the process. I'm very happy about the freedom of information, how it works, really.
Okay, so there's actually no form. There's no form that you can go and get and fill out and send to the government agency whose records you're requesting. So literally what you have to do is you have to make one up yourself. So, you know, there's no templates that are available from the federal government. It's literally, they tell you, you write your request out with as much information you can about the record you are receiving, and then they want you to mail it to them or fax it to them, and then they will acknowledge the fact that they've received your request, and then they will like attempt to find the record within, I think it's like 30 or 60 days. And if they find it, they'll tell you, and then how much they will charge you for them to send you the record, so on and so forth. So with the passport number, my great-grandfather's name, and his full address, I actually submitted a Freedom of Information Act request through a fax machine on April 7th, which was 1 month and 1 day ago. I have still yet to receive an acknowledgement from the federal government that they've received my request. And about 2 weeks ago, or maybe even 3 weeks ago, I called the State Department to see what the status of my request was, and I was told that that requests are not acknowledged for up to 3 to 4 weeks after they're received, even if they're sent via fax. So I'm still in like this limbo period of, do they have my request? Are they searching for my request? No. So there you go.
All right. Well, New Jersey and other states, maybe you should consider Sean's request. We need better access to records, just like we need better access to books, for sure.
Agreed. All
So
right, what do you got?
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you about one of my clients. And I do, as you know, graphic design, web development, branding, and the thing about it is that very often if somebody calls me, it's not because everything's going well, it's because they have a need, right? And in this particular case, this client has a need to redevelop their website, and they actually had development done by a branding company, and the site is beautiful, actually. I mean, visually stunning, and offers a lot of new functionality that was not there before. It is using WordPress, which I love. And the issue is that they are getting a significant number of complaints from customers about the ease of use of the navigation, how to get to places, redundancy, out-of-date information, because all that happened before was a migration of the content rather than a satisfactory combing of the content in order to make it correct. So they just brought everything over and didn't really care as much as they needed to about the narration of the site, the tone of the site, the voice of the site, and how that affects brand. So that's why I'm coming in, is to take care of these kinds of changes. And we've sat down a couple times now and talked about what the voice should be, how consistent things should be, or obviously they should be consistent, far more consistent than they are now. So for example, when this particular company mentions one of their products, I think certain things should happen. I think that the text of the product should be capitalized and italicized. I think that it should link to a place to be able to buy that product. I think they should use consistent language throughout. And what I love about that process is that it's all technology, really. I mean, the technological changes, but at the heart of it, it's about customer service in the sense that we want to be clear to our customers. We want to be able to be understood. We want to be able to communicate well. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you felt about communication, especially web-based communication as customer service.
You know, it's funny that you should speak about this problem that way, because my professional life, we did a website redesign for the organization and department that I work for about 3 years ago. And we did as precisely as you said. We just migrated the content from the old site to the new site. And it wasn't until this year that that content was finally combed through with a set of knowledgeable eyes to check the accuracy, the up-to-dateness of that content. And it was a major project to update that content, clean the content up, change the narrative of that content. It's not an easy task, and it is something that we probably only just finished, I think, in January. Started in August and didn't finish until January. So, you know, our site is not that huge of a site, but, you know, there's probably like 50 pages to it, and, you know, there's a lot of academic information and policy that is contained on those sites, and it's very difficult. And I think that, you know, a lot of times when people have sites, they whether they have existing content or not, they kind of feel like the person that is helping them with their website redesign or their website launch should be telling them about their content, like this is good content, this is bad content, etc. But we are not the experts. We're not knowledge experts for the website. I mean, it's impossible for us to know, as I've explained to the people that I work with, it's impossible for me to know all the policies and procedures that go into running a foreign language cultural department at an Ivy League institution. It's not my area of expertise. I would not even begin to understand or know these things. So therefore, it's not my role to say this content is out of date, this content is not out of date, this narrative is bad, this is not bad. It's up to somebody who has that knowledge to look at that content and to make changes to it. And sadly,
Yeah,
that was. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sadly, it took 3 years for somebody to finally understand what I was saying, and they took it seriously, and they took it upon themselves to get it done. And so we finally now have a website that has really great content.
Fantastic. And I mean, in my particular case, I'm being brought in not only to help with the technology changes, which are what you're saying. What I'm hearing you say is that you have the technological ability, and it's a pure technological ability, and that should be the expectation. What they're asking for, and as they were asking you, is to essentially be an editor, an author, and to not only do web development, but to do content development.
That's
and
precisely
content development
the problem.
and web development are two completely different tasks.
Precisely.
So, just like visual development is a completely different task. You wouldn't ask a graphic designer to write or a writer to do graphic design unless they happen to have that collection of skills. And so I think that it is, as a web developer, as a consultant, one of the things that I consider from customer service perspective is that this is a common need. And so I'm happy that I understand something about structure and grammar, and I'm glad that if they need visual development, I can do that, and I'm glad that I have the technical component, because I think that is kind of a unique set of skills to meet a not very unique need. I think a lot of people need this, and sometimes it requires a team, and I can't afford to have a team. So, but I love that they are trying to help their customers to be more pleased, simply by changing the narrative on their site. I hadn't really considered it as customer service, but like so many topics, this show made me think about how that is customer service, how making sure that you refine the way that you are presenting yourself verbally as well as visually as well as in other forms. That's all culture. That's all identity. And so, and the other good thing is this particular organization knows themselves really well, and I have regular contact with high people in the organization who really know the history and know the meaning and know the brand and know the plan. And I'm very lucky because I think in another organization they would be so removed from me. I would be talking to somebody much further down. And so kudos to this particular company for knowing how important this is from a customer service perspective. And I just happen to be lucky enough to work with them and be able to meet those needs for them.
Yeah, it's really great. And I think it's funny that you pointed out how if somebody was working with a graphic designer, they would not ask them to take on the job of an author, or if they're working with an author, they would not ask that person to take on the responsibilities or roles of a graphic designer. But what is it about technology that people feel that they can ask us to do those things?
I can answer that question. I feel like it is a prejudice towards technologists that because they know technology, a lot of people associate technology knowledge with brilliance, and you and I know that that's not the case. You can be just as not brilliant in lots of other areas as you are brilliant in technology. But for some reason, there is an association with a different kind of sets of intelligence for technologists. And I actually don't like the prejudice because then you do something human. You have a conversation or you say something or you do something that is a human mistake, and they're like, aren't you a technologist? I'm like, yeah, I'm a technologist, but I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So that's my personal belief, because I think that people sometimes give technologists the benefit of the doubt without really knowing whether or not they understand other things. They just assume because they know technology and they themselves find it to be magical or mystical, that somehow those technology skills traverse all other kinds of creative skills. And of course, you and I know that's not the case.
It definitely is not the case. Definitely not.
All right, so is there any websites or tips or ideas that you'd like to talk about?
I would like to talk about how Princeton Township is providing horrible customer service to people that live and work in the Princeton area by not only closing Princeton Pike from Lover's Lane to Province Line Road for the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
But also they've just announced that University Place will also be closed next week. So it took me 2 hours to get home yesterday from Princeton University area to my home in Ewing. It is insane, and I will actually next week will be driving my car to the Hamilton train station every morning and taking the train to campus because the ride home is impossible. Getting in, not an issue. Getting out, on the other hand, major issues.
Well, full disclosure, I'm working with a department in Princeton Township, so I'm not going to comment on this issue, but I'm not going to stop you from saying how you feel about it. And I actually have not been in Princeton recently and couldn't comment on it anyway. I think it's difficult when infrastructure needs to be updated, and I imagine that it makes people more angry than anything when it affects their commute.
Yeah, it's I just I'm fully aware of infrastructure needing repair and maintenance and sometimes reconstruction or improvement, and there's been a lot of that's occurred in that area, and sometimes it's an inconvenience, but sometimes, like for example, they recently put a circle in where University Place and Alexander Road intersect
Yep.
in
I'm familiar
Princeton,
with the circle.
right by the Wawa.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. The removing of that intersection took probably like 2 or 3 months, and now that that circle is in place, the flow of traffic on Alexander Road at the end of the day is vastly improved. It is.
I agree.
It is an incredible improvement that was made to that area, and I'm very grateful. And I think anyone else that lives or works in that area is also grateful. And now that the inconvenience is over, they feel that the inconvenience was worth it. But
I agree 100%. And plus, I love the plans that I've seen for the development of the arts district.
yeah, it's very nice. But there's just a lot of times, I can think of a few other projects that have occurred with highways or local roads in that area that just don't feel, they don't seem to be thought out or well planned. Like a colleague of mine said the other day, like, couldn't they have waited to do this Princeton Pike thing until after commencement when, a large portion of faculty and students are not coming to campus every day?
That is odd. Why would they do that before commencement?
It's a great question, but that's what's going on, and it's really terrible. And like I said, I'll be paying for parking and a train ticket every day next week because the ride home is absolutely unbearable.
Well, luckily you and I live in an area where public transit is done better than many other places.
This is true, very true.
So one service I wanted to highlight is a company called 5-4. Are you familiar with 5-4, Sean?
I'm not. Tell me about them.
So 5-4 is an online clothes service. I have not yet received my first package, but what it is you go in and you give your preferences for the kinds of clothes that you want. You give your precise measurements, and apparently, I don't know how true this is, but apparently there is a personal shopper who is assigned to you. It's probably an algorithm rather than a person. And according to your preferences, choices are made and matches are made in a package of clothes that you get every month, and you just pay a certain amount every month. I think it's around $60 a month. And you first choose whether or not you want to be sort of like t-shirt and jeans, or whether you want to be business casual, or whether you want to be like dressed to the nines. And I had a lot of trouble even making that first decision because I feel like I am kind of like t-shirt and jeans, but I want to improve that. As you know, we've talked about clothes before, of course. And I'm very interested to see if it makes good choices on my behalf, even if it is an algorithm, because for that relatively low price, that relatively clean budget, if it is of a good value, I can't wait to see what comes of it. What do you think about a service that has a personal shopper online that sends you clothes every month for a set price?
What's the price?
It's like $60.
No, that's not that bad. I would depend on me. I'm very particular about quality and durability, and so that's important to me. I recently discovered a store called Uniqlo. Let me rephrase that. I rediscovered them because they used to exist in the Freehold Mall about 10 years ago, and then they disappeared.
Talk about Uniqlo, you and I?
Never. Never. And my wife and I went to the one in Bridgewater, and there's been some things that I've gotten from there that I think are excellent, phenomenal pieces of clothing. Like their polo shirts are excellent. One of the best polo shirts I've ever owned, and I'll definitely be investing in more of those in the future. However, their Oxford shirts are really not up to my quality level. It's the type of fabric you wash, it gets incredibly wrinkled, and no matter what you do to it, it always looks wrinkled. And then their pants are like a mixed bag. They're kind of nice, they're kind of not. I don't know. Like I only have one pair, and I'm not sure how I feel about them. But I love their polo shirts, and they have great socks and great underwear, and the prices are really great. My wife has had a lot of great luck with them. She bought a winter coat from them that was insanely warm and and insulating and very cost, affordable. So, quality is something that is important to me. They can send you that your service can send you something that's looks great, but if you wash it twice and it shrinks and you can't wear it anymore, like, who gives a shit? Like, I would be really angry about that.
Well, I will give you a report. Maybe I'll even do an unboxing on our next show.
That would be great.
Depending on when we schedule it.
And since you mentioned clothing, I've been actually, I discovered a site. Maybe you've seen me talk about it on social media. AliExpress. Are you aware of the AliExpress?
No, I'm not.
AliExpress is basically the greatest Chinese bootleg site that there ever was. If you want fake Rolexes, bootleg soccer jerseys, fake Lacoste polo shirts, whatever, you can get them there. But the reason I mention this site is they actually also have original clothing available for amazingly cheap prices. Like if you want Oxford shirts or just solid color plain polo shirts, you can buy them in bulk or individually at insanely cheap prices, and they're shipped to you for free most of the time from China directly. And AliExpress, man, it's amazing. I'm a big fan of it, and this week there's been a lot of talk. Alibaba is about to go public in the United States, and they're saying how it might be the biggest public offering for a company in the history of like public offerings.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah, I don't know how you've been missing it. It's been all over the news, all over tech news. They're huge. Alibaba in China is basically like the Google and Amazon of China combined. And
wow.
They're so huge in China. Now, this is actually interesting. When Yahoo was a dominant force in the United States, Yahoo, I think, bought a 20% stake in the company when they were starting out. Their 20% stake in Alibaba has single-handedly kept Yahoo profitable for like the last 10 years.
Wow.
So, like I said, so I found Oxford shirts, and Crystal's found blazers and skirts and all kinds of stuff available on AliExpress, direct from the garment manufacturers in China to your door for free. And I've been very happy with the stuff that I've got from them.
All right. Well, I will check out AliExpress, and you check out 5.4. You tell me what you think, and I'll tell you what I think.
Sounds good.
All right, my friend. You have anything else to say?
We'll see you in a month.
We'll see you in a month. Thank you so much, Sean.
Anytime.
Bye.
Bye.